Hey everyone, welcome back to Incredible India podcast series. I am Sam.
And I'm Taylor.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're taking you to a city that, well, it was already considered ancient before the very first stone of the Roman Colosseum was even cut.
Yeah, which is just wild to think about.
Right. It's a place that was thriving like long before Athens or Jerusalem became these massive centers of their respective worlds.
Exactly. I mean, imagine walking into a space where 3,000 years of human history haven't just been, preserved under glass, but are actively being lived every single day.
And that is exactly the destination for our deep dive today. We are exploring Varanasi. Mark Twain famously described it as older than history, older than tradition, older even than legend.
Which is quite the endorsement.
It really is. But we aren't here to just read off a dusty timeline or list old buildings. We want to look at the profound, almost inescapable ways this city physically and psychologically rewires the perspective of anyone who visits.
And to do that, we are drawing our insights today from a really brilliant, comprehensive guide put together by Five Senses Tours.
Yeah, it's a fantastic resource.
It really is. They've documented not just the 3,000-year history of Varanasi, but also the broader, cultural and spiritual tapestry of the surrounding ancient cities. They break down exactly how this city functions as a living, breathing archaeological record.
So let's start right there, with the sheer weight of continuous time. Because when we say Varanasi is the oldest living city on Earth, we don't mean that metaphorically.
No, not at all.
We mean that in a highly physical, tangible way.
Right. I mean, if you were to dig beneath the bustling streets of Varanasi right now, you wouldn't just hit regular dirt. Archaeologists have literally uncovered layers upon layers of civilization stretching back more than 3 millennia.
Over 3,000 years. That's just staggering.
It is. They have pulled up pottery shards, old coins, daily artifacts that date all the way back to 1200 BCE.
1200 BCE.
Yeah. And recent excavations right near the ghats, those iconic, massive stone steps leading down to the river, they revealed ancient structural foundations from the 6th century BCE.
Wow.
And they're sitting right alongside Buddhist and Jain relics from the 5th century BCE.
Which is just incredible. But here is the thing that really separates it from other ancient sites for me. If you look at, say, Pompeii or the ancient ruins of Athens, they're essentially preserved as museums.
Yeah.
Right? They are roped off. They're kept safely behind glass for you to look at.
Very sterile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Varanasi has never stopped. It is this messy, living, breathing historical record. It makes me think of it like a computer operating system that has never been rebooted.
Oh, I like that. A 3,000-year uptime.
Yes. It has just been continuously updated. I mean, it faces invasions, catastrophic monsoon floods, major earthquakes, but never actually shuts down. It just patches the system and keeps running.
What's fascinating here is that this isn't just a story of history. It is a story of engineered survival. The physical architecture of the city itself is basically a masterclass in resilience.
How so?
Well, think about those gat steps. They weren't just poured concrete like we use today. They were carved from single, massive blocks of stone centuries ago.
Oh, wow. Single blocks.
Yeah. And why? Because they had to withstand the brutal, surging floodwaters of the Ganges River every single monsoon season without washing away.
That makes total sense. And the layout of the city itself is highly defensive, right?
Completely. You have these incredibly narrow, winding alleyways. To a modern visitor, they just seem like, poor city planning or something.
Right, like a maze.
Exactly. But they were actually designed strategically to confuse invading armies. A cavalry literally could not charge through them.
That is so smart.
And then look at something like the Kashi Vishwanath Temple. It has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times throughout history. But each reconstruction didn't start from scratch. They just layered new artistic elements right on top of the ancient foundations.
It's just layer upon layer of history.
Yeah, the city's buildings were designed to preserve sacred geometries, incorporating hidden passages that allowed people to reach the riverfront safely during sieges.
The architectural survival is one thing, but the human element is what really blows my mind from this source material.
Oh, absolutely.
The guide details how you have the exact same families performing the exact same rituals for 20 to 30 generations.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that kind of timeline.
I know. They trace their lineage back hundreds of years, living in the exact same neighborhoods. They're chanting the exact same Sanskrit verses and conducting fire ceremonies using techniques from the Vedas.
Which are the oldest foundational scriptures of Hinduism.
Right, and they were transmitted orally down to the exact syllable for millennia.
And that is exactly why, as a visitor, you find yourself existing in multiple time periods at once.
Yeah, it's like time travel.
It really is. You can walk down a street and see medieval markets where the haggling follows customs set centuries ago. You see silk weavers using complex wooden looms that their great-great-grandfathers designed.
Yeah.
But right alongside them, people are navigating those ancient streets on modern motorcycles, checking smartphones. The past and the present occupy the exact same physical space without contradicting each other at all.
But, you know, surviving for 3 millennia means this isn't some sanitized museum behind velvet ropes.
Definitely not.
If you step into those streets today, you are hitting a literal wall of sensory overload. Because if you're walking through a city operating on an unbroken timeline, it does not feel like a modern planned metropolis.
Ew, it's intense.
The narrow gullies of Varanasi are a full-blown sensory labyrinth.
Labyrinth is the perfect word. I mean, before you can even consciously process what you are seeing, your senses are just enveloped by this intensely human landscape. The aroma alone hits you like a physical wall.
The guide is so incredibly vivid about this. Imagine you are walking through these alleys. You are breathing in this thick, intoxicating blend of sacred temple incense mixed with the very earthy, ancient, almost muddy smell of the Ganges River.
Right, that deep river scent.
Yeah. But then, right next to that, you are hit with the smell of sizzling street food. You have jalebis, these bright orange, incredibly sweet spirals of fried dough, and they are sizzling in massive vats of bubbling oil.
Oh man, making me hungry.
I know, right? And you have fresh lassi, this rich yogurt drink, being churned by hand in clay cups. You smell the spicy, tangy explosion of chat from the street vendors, and it is all competing with the heavy, sweet fragrance of freshly strung marigold garlands.
And the audio landscape is just as dense. It operates on multiple simultaneous layers.
Oh yeah, the noise.
You have the deep, rhythmic Sanskrit chants bouncing off medieval stone walls, but cutting right through that hypnotic ancient sound is the absolute unfiltered modern chaos of motorcycle horns blaring.
Always the horns.
Always. Stray dogs barking and the metallic percussion of brass temple bells being rung at completely random intervals by passing devotees.
Okay, I have to stop you there and push back a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Because, honestly, that sounds like an absolute nightmare of stress.
It can be overwhelming, yeah.
Right. Like, if you are a visitor, especially someone used to a highly organized, heavily regulated, noise-controlled modern city in the West, how do you find any kind of peace or spiritual meaning in that?
It's a valid question.
You are dodging motorcycles, smelling burning incense mixed with open drains and spicy food, getting deafened by bells. How is that spiritual?
It absolutely is an assault on the senses at first, but the chaos isn't an accident. The chaos is the teacher.
The teacher. How so?
It deliberately strips away all your modern illusions of control. Think about it. In our day-to-day lives, we meticulously curate our environments.
Oh, we do.
We put on noise-canceling headphones. We tint our windows. We filter the entire experience of being alive. Varanasi makes that impossible. You cannot curate Varanasi.
It's just too big and loud.
Exactly. It forces a kind of psychological surrender.
You just have to let the wave hit you.
Exactly. You stop trying to control the environment and you are forced to just observe it. And because of that unvarnished chaos, the city confronts you with jarring, completely unfiltered juxtapositions about human society.
Like what kind of juxtapositions?
You will see extreme, unimaginable wealth and stark, absolute poverty side by side. You might see wealthy pilgrims arriving in air-conditioned luxury cars to perform elaborate ceremonies, while destitute beggars sit just meters away, hoping for small coins.
That's intense.
But then you will walk down to the ghats and see a multi-millionaire CEO and a daily wage rickshaw driver sitting shoulder to shoulder on the same stone steps, both seeking the exact same divine connection.
The river doesn't care how much money you have.
It really doesn't. And seeing this stark reality teaches resilience. It proves to you as a visitor that human dignity, joy, and profound contentment actually flourish entirely independently of material wealth.
That is a powerful lesson.
You see people with very few physical possessions demonstrating incredible spiritual depth and generosity. It forces you to completely reevaluate what actually constitutes a successful or meaningful life.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Nowhere is that reevaluation more dramatic than when you actually reach the banks of the Ganges.
Yeah, the river itself.
We've talked about the bustling streets, but the ultimate example of Varanasi breaking down your comfort zones is the city's relationship with mortality, the end of life.
The transition between life and death isn't hidden away there. It is on literal public display.
It is, but it actually starts with this massive, overwhelming celebration of life. The dawn prayers.
Those are beautiful.
Hundreds of devotees walking down those ancient stone steps into the cold morning air. They step into the sacred river and offer river water to the sun, using these small, flickering oil lamps.
Right, the dayas.
Yeah, and the guide describes this palpable collective energy where total strangers are completely united in purpose. Then, in the evening, you have the Ganga Aarti at the Shashwamedh Ghat.
The scale of that is just massive.
It's a huge choreographed ceremony with these heavy, multi-tiered brass lamps. Thousands of individual flames merge into one massive offering, with synchronized chanting and thick smoke rising into the night sky.
It is a profound hypnotic communion. But just steps away from those vibrant celebrations of life and birth are the burning ghats.
Yeah.
This is the visceral reality of open cremation.
And in modern society, we really compartmentalize death.
Sure.
We sanitize it.
We completely hide it away.
We do. We hide it behind the closed doors of hospitals or quiet funeral homes. We use makeup to make the person look like they're just sleeping. But Varanasi puts it on a literal stage. You could be walking along the river and see a family joyously bathing a newborn baby, and literally 50 feet away, a funeral pyre is burning in the open air.
It's all happening at once.
Families gather around it with a mixture of grief, yes, but also a deep, grounded acceptance. So I have to ask, how does witnessing something that raw, that visceral, actually change a visitor's worldview?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that daily, entirely unfiltered confrontation with mortality paradoxically becomes the ultimate celebration of life's preciousness.
That sounds like a contradiction, but I think I see what you mean.
Think about how much anxiety in modern life comes from avoiding the thought of death. We constantly push it away.
Okay, I've been on it.
But when you see the inevitability of death so openly acknowledged, it cuts right through that anxiety. It clarifies your priorities instantly. Suddenly, all those trivial concerns, the stressful email, the social media drama, the bad traffic, they completely lose their grip on you.
Because you are seeing the absolute impermanence of everything right in front of your eyes. The smoke is literally rising.
Precisely. It diminishes your future anxieties because it teaches absolute acceptance. And I don't mean acceptance in a pessimistic, throwing your hands up sort of way.
Right, not like giving up.
Exactly. I mean embracing the natural, eternal flow of existence. The fire transforms the body, and the river carries away both the ashes and the worldly attachments.
Which brings us perfectly to the practice of river meditation mentioned in the source guide.
Yeah, that's a key part of the experience.
Visitors don't just walk away from all this. They sit quietly by the Ganges. They watch the constant, eternal movement of the water to still their own restless minds. But the mechanism of this is what's truly fascinating to me.
How so?
You aren't retreating to a silent, soundproof room. You're learning to observe without judgment right in the middle of the noise.
Right, the chaos is still happening all around you.
Exactly. You watch the wooden boats pass, you watch the pilgrims chanting, you watch the pyres burning, and you find an inner stillness that isn't dependent on the outside world being quiet.
You are finding calm within the storm, rather than waiting for perfect, artificially quiet conditions. That is the true, lasting resilience Varanasi teaches.
It is such a profound psychological shift. And what is amazing is that this intensity, this depth of time and devotion learned in Varanasi doesn't just stop at the city limits.
No, it echoes out everywhere.
It naturally bleeds out into the wider region. It sets the tone for an entire cultural landscape across the Gangetic Plain.
The scope of that cultural landscape is staggering. And what links all these surrounding cities is that they operate on that same deliberate, devoted pace we see in Varanasi. A pace that completely rejects our modern obsession with optimization and speed.
Yes. Like the silk weavers the guide mentions.
Oh, the weavers are a perfect example.
In a modern factory, a machine spits out fabric in seconds, right? Here, you have master weavers taking 3 full days of meticulous hand-looming to perfect a single piece of silk.
3 days for one piece?
Yeah. Or the tabla players, the traditional drummers, they don't teach rhythms to children through formal, scheduled 30-minute lessons like we do in the West.
No strict syllabus.
Right. The children just sit with the masters all day long. They absorb the complex beats by osmosis, just by living in the presence of the music.
It is a living generational education. And as you pan out to the other sacred and historical sites in the region, you see this depth everywhere.
Where else do we see it?
Take Ayodhya, located relatively close by. It is the birthplace of Lord Rama, making it a major pilgrimage site, especially with the newly consecrated Ram Mandir.
Millions of people go there.
They do. They go to connect with its ancient history and massive spiritual significance.
And moving further along that sacred geography, you reach Bodh Gaya.
Right?
This is the exact spot where the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree over 2,500 years ago.
Which is just incredible to stand near.
The Mahabodhi Temple complex there is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It draws seekers from every Buddhist tradition on the planet. The historical weight of just standing in that physical space is immense.
But the depth of North India isn't just restricted to religious sites. The cultural mastery takes on completely different dimensions when you look at cities like Lucknow and Kannauj.
Oh, Lucknow is fascinating.
It's the city of Nawabs. It is famous for this incredibly refined Awadhi culture. You have the sweeping architecture of the Bara-e-Mambara, a rich tradition of classical poetry and music, and Shikhan embroidery.
The embroidery is stunning.
It is this incredibly delicate shadow work hand embroidery that takes artisans months to finish a single garment.
Okay, but we have to talk about Kannauj, because the mechanism of what they do there is just incredible.
The perfume capital.
Yes, Kannauj is the ancient perfume capital of India. For over 1,000 years, they have been distilling attar or itar, these highly complex natural perfumes extracted from flowers.
And they are still doing it using the traditional Digriya and Babka methods.
Which is fascinating because it cannot be rushed.
Not at all.
Exactly. They don't use digital thermostats or industrial pressure cookers. They use these giant copper cauldrons, the degs, sealed with mud and clay.
Mud and clay seals.
Yeah, and they light wood fires underneath them, controlling the temperature entirely by feel and experience. The steam carrying the floral essence travels through a bamboo pipe into the babka, a receiver sitting in cold water.
It's basically ancient chemistry.
It is. They even have a perfume called midi attar, where they literally distill the scent of baked clay to capture the exact smell of the earth right after the first monsoon rain hits it.
Capturing the smell of rain, that's poetic.
It takes days of exhausting hot labor just to get a few drops.
It is an unbroken chain of craftsmanship. And you see that same generational devotion in Agra and Khajuraho, too.
Right, Agra is more than just the Taj Mahal.
Way more. Beyond the Taj Mahal, the region offers the Agra Fort, the abandoned ghost city of Fatehpur Sikri, and that meticulous marble inlay work where tiny, semi-precious stones are cut by hand to form intricate flowers right into the marble.
And Khajuraho, that's another UNESCO World Heritage Site, famous for its breathtaking 10th and 11th century temple sculptures built by the Chandela dynasty.
The art there is unmatched.
The artistic vision is phenomenal. We aren't talking about basic building blocks. We are talking about deeply philosophical, intricate carvings of human life, spirituality, and divine energy, all carved directly into the stone walls by generations of master artisans.
It represents the full, uncompromised flowering of an empire's creative confidence.
Looking at all of this from the 1,000-year-old perfume stills in Kannauj, where they literally capture the smell of rain, to the ancient stone carvers of Khajuraho, it really makes me question our modern concept of progress.
In what way?
Well, has our obsession with efficiency, with making absolutely everything faster, cheaper, and infinitely scalable, actually cost us the ability to create true, enduring masterpieces?
That is the exact question this entire region forces you to ask yourself.
Does it?
Yeah. What these cities prove is that progress isn't strictly linear. Some ancient methods, whether it is extracting the purest attar from a flower using a clay pot, carving profound philosophical stories into temple stone, or weaving silk thread by thread, they simply cannot be improved by a spreadsheet.
Or an algorithm.
Right, or productivity app. They require time. They require a generational transfer of knowledge from master to student. And most importantly, they require deep, unwavering devotion to the craft itself.
Devotion to the process, not just the output. We're so focused on the output today, we lose the art of the process.
Precisely. The old way isn't just preserved in Varanasi or Kannauj for nostalgia's sake. In many of these cases, the old way is objectively the right way to achieve true mastery.
So what does this all mean? When we look at the raw, beautiful chaos of Varanasi and this incredible surrounding landscape of devotion, it forces a profound question. What if the ultimate luxury in our hyper-connected, hyper-optimized modern world isn't wealth? What if it isn't having the latest technology, or the most efficient apps, or having total control over your environment?
Then what is it?
What if the ultimate luxury is simply having the ability to sit quietly by an ancient river, accepting the absolute messy chaos of life as it unfolds around you, without feeling the desperate, exhausting need to control it?
If you decide to travel to Varanasi or elsewhere in India, we have a recommendation. Five Senses Tours organizes tours across India which are immersive cultural experiences. You can email contact@fivesensestours.com. Note 5 is written as a numeral in contact@fivesensestours.com. Or WhatsApp to +919 845 677 446.